Hi Sindhu. As discussed, I'm here to talk about my fitness journey, how this fitness journey started, and how it ended up at trekking, my trekking experiences, and what were the low points and high points of my trek. So Sindhu, it all started somewhere in around 2012. Um I had just quit my job and I was planning to join my friend for his business. And while I was in my resignation period, one of my colleagues suffered a heart attack. So he's hospitalized and angioplasty was done on him. So while we were at hospital, we were discussing about whether at this age we should have our regular checkups and all cardiac checkups. So I just went to Fortis Hospital to get my complete cardiac checkup done, all treadmill tests and everything. So that when I was taking my report, the doctor smiled at me. He said, "Your reports are fantastic. What are you here for?" So I told him that we have got a family history of heart problems and that my father succumbed to it and all. So that's why I got my check. He says, "You are perfectly all right." I was not a fitness freak at that time, but I was not leading a sedentary lifestyle as such. So I used to go for walks, and I just joined gym also same month. And 2 months later in gym, I got my first heart attack. So I was surprised. And, how could that happen and all. So we went to doctor, got all my tests done, and he said there is a minor blockage, which is normal at this age, and I should go in for angioplasty. He says that location of blockage is very critical, and it can interfere. It is right at the doorstep of my heart, and it could interfere with my complete functioning of the heart. So I got my angioplasty done in 2012 July, yeah, and I was 44 years old at that time, and 20 days later I was back to gym doing my normal work, and so I was perfectly all right. Then 11 months later, I started experiencing breathing problems and all that exertion and all. So I went back to my doctor and we got all the checks done. And he's observed that my the stent that he had put in my heart, it had clotted on both the ends. So he says it's a very rare phenomena where the body doesn't accept anything foreign to it. So it just clots the whole thing. And he told me it could be a serious thing because he said he's going to restent it and change my medicines a bit. But he says if it persists, the next stent could block even faster. Uh, and there was a serious threat to my survival at that time. And as it happened, 3 months later, my health started deteriorating very fast, and I left my friend's business also because I was not able to go to office. I was bedridden, and my health started deteriorating very fast. And then on one day after my 46th birthday, that is on 2nd July, I suffered a massive heart attack again. And again, they did all the tests and they saw that that whole stent was completely clotted and all. So uh, they stabilized me, and then I was airlifted to Delhi for a open heart bypass surgery. That was also not seen to be a sure shot thing because since they put in a vein from your leg and put it into the artery, and they said it's again a foreign thing. But doctors at Medanta, they performed a surgery called a mid cap, and my artery was shortened. Then I came back home, and I remember tied up with my chest band, taking my wife's shoulder support and crouched, having walking baby steps and all that. So um, then it went on for 3 4 months. I was still very much scared of the whole thing. I was not very sure whether this will work or not, and even a heartburn would seem to be like a recurrence of again another heart problem. But then things started improving gradually, and so I can't pinpoint a certain point where I said I can say that I just went into fitness, but it could be an automated response from my body or what. But I slowly and slowly I went into fitness more. So I remember 2015. I think early summers. I started cycling, and then in May 2015 I joined swimming. I learned swimming, and then I started swimming. So then I slowly went into that fitness mode and all that, cycling, swimming, walks, all that. Gymming I stopped altogether because I didn't want to go into all that muscle building thing. Uh, I got very fit and all that, but then there was one thing that my wife always wanted to go to Leh, and whenever there was any talk of going to mountains and all that, she would always say that, "Arey nahi, at high levels and all that, you'll have oxygen problems and all that, breathing problems. I don't want to go." Every year we used to go to, I go to this madam doctor for annual checkup and all. She'll always ask him, and he said, "Yeah, you can go to Mount Everest, no problems." So till last year, there was, I would say, I was not into mountains or trekking. I was a beach kind of man, going to Andaman and go and all that. Nothing about mountains. But then I thought, why not somehow get this fear out of my wife's mind, and let's go to mount. So I talked to my friend. I said, "Yeah, let's do a small trek, say from here to Mussoorie and something like that." And so it was checking whether what are my fitness is, how I respond. Then he suggested that, yeah, why not go something more exciting? And there's a trek from Chopta to Tungnath. And, he says, and if you can somehow manage, if your body allows, you can try up to Chandrashila. It's slightly tough. And so I said, okay, let's go. So two of us drove to Chopta, and that was last year, 2022. It was beginning of second, I think 9th of April we started off from there. And 10th we started our trek from Chopta to Tungnath. That trek, I got into, that was love at first sight. I fell head over heels in love with mountains after that trek. The first thing that struck me was, since it was but beginning of April, it was rhodo season. All rhododendrons were in full bloom. I saw right from red to pink to white, and they were all over the place. Beautiful rhodos. And then the beginning of track on the left hand side, there was this thing, very nice meadow, and so it started from that. And when I complete that trek, I just breezed through the trek, and without any, and Chandrashila I went like anything. So when I reached Chandrashila top, I remember it was very, the views were not clear. When I was down, I could see all those things, but by the time, I think it was around about 11 or something like that, view was not there. But I just kind of experienced something like a total connect with nature, and then absolute calm when I reached there. And then when I came down, that sense of accomplishment, it hit me. And before I knew, I fell in love with it. But it was not, I was not very sure. I came back, I was very happy, but I was not aware of any of these trekking places where to trek and all. For me, it was okay. That was just, there's that place, and I could have thought of maybe Kedarnath, or my friend told me you can do similarly Madhmeshwar or Rudranath and all that, and maybe this Kipling trail. Stopped there, and maybe month or so later, maybe in somewhere in May, I was having some back problems. I had a very dodgy back still. I do quite a lot for that. So I had gone for my physiotherapy, and then we kept on talking. What do you do? What you do fitness, and that. Then suddenly I mentioned trekking. So it happened that he was a very avid trekker also. So he suggested, "Arey, you go to, have you seen that place?" And he started talking about places like Har Ki Doon and Kedar Kanthas. And I said, how do I go there? Yaar? Who will accompany me? He said, there are trekking groups. There is one called India Hikes. Okay. So I came home, I talked to my son. He said, "Oh, you don't know about India Hikes? They are the best, safety wise and all that." Mm. So I started reading about India Hikes and all that, what they do, the vision and all that. And I was quite impressed with that. Their whole vision of that everyone should trek, and uh, the pains they take for safety and all. It was all evident over there. Uh, and that my physiotherapist had said that there's one of the most beautiful tracks in Uttarakhand is Har Ki Doon. Okay, fine. So then, at the end of my physiotherapy session, he said, "Okay, I'll take you to a small track and I'll judge your back whether it's holding up or not." So there is a place called Ghanta Karan, or some people call it Ghadial Devta. It's in Tirhi district. Both of us went. We drove up to that place Gaja, and we went up to it. It is around about 8,500 feet, and it's a 4 kilometer hike up and then 4 down. Went on nicely, and I felt that connect with that mountains and all. So I wrote to India Hikes and told them about all my medical history and everything, and what I do and all that. What's my schedule? I swim 4 or 5 months a year, and then I do cycling and walks and all this. So they said, okay, like you can go to Har Ki Doon if you want, but we would just like to check whether can you run 5 kilometers in 45 minutes. I was in Bangalore at that time visiting my son, so we have got a stray dog problem in our colony. So there it was okay. So I did a 5 kilometer run. I'm not into running, but I did, and I finished it in around 43 minutes, I think, and I was cleared to go for Har Ki Doon trip. And in May I booked it, and May or June, I think, beginning of June, and the trek was supposed to start on 24th of September. I just deliberately booked it after the monsoon. I didn't want to go in rain and all that. So I said by 15th the monsoon will retreat, and I booked it. As it happened, throughout our trek, there was a red alert for rain, and I think there were only 2 or 3 groups that were given permission to go ahead. One of was ours, and amongst the first 3 groups, we were the only one who could complete that trek. In fact, we went only up to Unti Garden. There was a landslide, so we couldn't visit Tal. And since it was raining incessantly, I pulled up. There was no place to do all your warm-ups and all that. I think I pulled my groin at Gangad on the second day. And for 3 days, I dragged my legs, and it was so. But the end of it, I was okay. I done trek, but I was not very sure whether I would go for another trek. My wife was also very concerned about that experience. And then 2 days later, that Draupadi Danda mishap happened, and so as for my family and everything, everyone thought that no, this is the end of this thing. And then 3 days after that, I booked my Kedarkantha trek, and that too in winter, because I was very scared of cold weather. But I'll take it as a challenge. So without my knowing it, I had hooked on to trekking. Kedarkantha, I reached the summit, and then from the top, I saw Fulara Ridge going like that, and I knew I'm coming to Fulara Ridge very soon. I would have done it much earlier, but that window is that May June is the window, so I booked that 28th May to 2nd June We went up. Fulara ridge top is snowed out, and we thought we'll go only up to ridge top. And then the third day of our trek, the summit day, the day before it started raining, and it rained for 24 to 26 hours incessantly. Then there was hailstorm, there was a bit of snowfall. Our bathrooms blew up, and tents were our whole night. The tents, I mean, the one pack gone there, and so we couldn't do summit. And so on the fourth day, when we were planning to descend down, and it's early morning, I talked to my boss, Sindhu boss, that it's, it's only maybe hour away. Can we just go and have a dash at it? She said, no time, but just pressed a little longer. Let me. So he said, whosoever wants, you can run away, go to the top if you can, and come back by breakfast time before we leave. So 5 or 6 of us, we just dashed to the summit, reached there, and then that gave us, so uh, that is how my fitness journey started. And by the time I started trekking, my preparation for the trek, it somehow changed my fitness schedule quite a lot. When I booked for my first trek, I had watched almost all India hikes videos, and they were not about the trekking visuals and all that. It was all the legendary Dushyant, Arjun, Sandhya's, Swati's, their videos, how to pack, how to train, what not to do, what to do, and all these things. So my schedule was like a long brisk walks, 8 kilometers, 9 kilometers. I just went into it. So that was my journey, fitness journey, from how it started from walking baby steps, crouched, to just dashing up to the mountains. And as far as India hikes is concerned, when my son suggested and when started reading about India hikes, I didn't even try to check on anything else. It was straight away in my mind, India hikes and nothing else. And my experience with India hikes on all these 3 treks has been, I mean, tremendous. I can't explain. So it will form one of my highlights of all the treks now. As far as now, if you ask me what are the low points of my trek, this trek at least. See, if you ask people, when I talk to people about trekking में what bad, so it's all like चढ़ाई थी, so it's terrain, temperature, weather, you have your problem sleeping, and all those sleeping bags are damn uncomfortable. I don't like them. The washrooms, going to tents for dinner, and washing your dishes, all those difficulties that you face on a trek. But I would slightly differ from that. See, when we go for trekking, when we go to mountains, these challenges are something that we choose to embrace. We don't go for a picnic or something like that. All this trekking and all that, this is a very tough test of our endurance limits. And this is what we go there for, to challenge ourselves. If I'm scared of winter, cold, harsh weather, I booked my Kedarkantha deliberately in December so that I get to experience all those sub-zero. We went up to summit at around about 4:30. We started. It was, I think, -7. But that's it. That's what you go for. Whether you can climb up like anything, whether you can withstand that harsh weather. See, this Fulara, this thing, when it was rolling, we were seriously, not only without the people who live there in mountains, our assistant tech leaders who have been trekking like anything, and even they were scared. That sort of weather, the wind was howling, and our tents were going all over the place. Our mats got wet, our sleeping bags got wet. Everything was miserable. You're climbing, it's raining, but the sum total of all that misery is actually what you gain from a trek. And I'm really glad that I was able to go all through all that. And when I go for a trek, I don't have any expectations. I accept whatever nature gives me. And yeah, maybe I can say that not reaching the ridge top was a bit of a dampener. But that's it. Trekking, when you're trekking, it's a what you call a struggle between human resilience and the might of the nature. And more than often, might of nature wins. And even when you make it, it's not that you have won. It's just that the nature has given into your love for the nature, and it has allowed you to embrace it. So for me, the low point of all my treks has been the same. It's just after finishing the trek, when you have to say goodbye to your fellow trekkers, to your trek leaders, and all that. That is something I dread, and it takes me time to. I mean, when it hits you, when you get down from your vehicle, and then you say, okay, there's a very, very slim probability that you're going to trek with these people again. You're going to meet them again, and that is something that is that pinches you. It hits you very hard. So that I would say is the low point of my all treks. Uh, Now the high point. Um, as far as this trek is concerned, uh, or the other treks are concerned, I would say, first of all, I take it as a generalized all high point. High point of the trek is that it changes a person completely, at least for the duration of the trek. Um, you'll see the best side of human nature, the strength of character that comes to fore when you are in the mountains. Oh, it's just wow. The more challenging the situation is, the circumstances are, whether it's weather, it's the climb, uh, more that reservoir of hidden reservoir of humanity, it comes to the fore. People always put others in front of themselves. Your glass of water, your bottle of water, it's more for the others than you. If is his tent is wet, his sleeping bag is wet, his things are not done, you are there. You'll put him first. And that thing, to watch somebody back, well, if he's injured, to ensure that he's coming up, and then you wait for him, sharing your own snacks, that's tremendous. And then to take all those challenges head on, to just move on, even when you're injured, you're not well, it's not up to you. That strength of character, that is highlight of the every track. And this track, I, apart from all these things, there's something that I can't forget. That those 2 nights that we had to endure at Bhojgadi, our track leaders, oof, and all the trekking team, Akshay Bhai, Sindhu, whole night they were out in the that rain, hailstorm, and all that, clearing our tents, just making sure that our mats are dry, giving us new mats, putting in things, and making drainage, temporary drainage for water to go past the tents, keeping pegs in place, sometimes here and there, and not worrying about themselves, and just doing like anything. And then at 6:30 in the morning, in that blinding rain, Sindhu serving tea to all the trekkers in their tents, calling it, "Arey, Manichi, it's tea for you." Oof, hats off to you. And that sort of thing, and as I think I pointed out in one of my previous videos, good food is, I mean, you can give good food, it's not something. But the love with which you serve us food, India X, I mean, that is tremendous. I mean, This fellow Akshay Bhai, he always takes rain with him, but it's a joy to trek with him. And like, he won't allow you to miss a meal or a snack. इतने प्यार से it's too much. And at one point I remember I had said that I'm going to miss my snacks and all that. I'm going to bed. I'm tired. And Sindhu said, punishment for that is if anybody misses a snack, he's not going to summit. So I was quite scared. I want to go to summit. So all in all, this human resilience, this nature, the efforts of the leading team, the guides. I remember somebody's shoe sole had gone up, and that guide going down to the base camp to get a new pair of shoes. Somebody would. There's one fellow who couldn't make it after the first day. Somebody taking him down and then again coming up. All that is tremendous. These are the highlights, the high points of my trek. And yes, I finished my trek on Friday. I reached here Friday evening. Saturday I took rest. Sunday I started my training for the next. It was 8 kilometers on Sunday, 9 kilometers on Monday, and 10-kilometer mark I've hit yesterday. So, and I think Kuari Pass or Brahmtal is going to be my next trek. Most probably it could be Kuari Pass, and could be the last quarter of this year. And I look forward to meet a new team of India X, because all these treks have been from one side, 2 from Kodgaon, 1 from Gachwan, that I've done in last 7-8 months. So if I do that trek in October, maybe it would be my 4th trek in a year with India Hikes. And I train hard. I don't want to let down my fellow trekkers and my leading team. So that's it, Sindhu. I think we have more or less covered up everything. And best of luck to you for all your future treks. And hope to see you somewhere in mountains at some point of time. Bye.